is Amy O'Mara. I'm the director of the Corporate EcoForum, and I want to welcome you to today's webinar, Manufacturing and Sustainability, an Introduction to the U S DOE Special Programs. We're going to get started. I see a few people still joining, but I'm just going to make some introductions, and we'll get this thing rolling in a couple of minutes. I'm very pleased to be joined today by Bruce Lung, a Reese Fellow with the U S DOE Advanced Manufacturing Office, and Walter Brockway, the Manager of Global Energy Efficiency at Alcoa. Bruce supports the Better Plants and Superior Energy Performance programs by helping with the expansion of industry participation and ensuring that the programs offer value to manufacturers and industrial-scale energy users. And he has more than 15 years of experience with supporting energy efficiency and clean energy programs through research and analysis of best practices and technologies, as well as outreach and policy analysis on behalf of federal, private sector, and NGOs. Walter is responsible for coordinating efforts within all of Alcoa businesses and regions to improve energy intensity. During his 30-year tenure at Alcoa, he's held various energy and power roles, including Power and Engineering Manager, Corporate Energy Manager, Hydroelectric Operations Manager, Energy Regulatory Affairs Manager, and other positions. So he's got quite a vast experience, and among that, he has created the Alcoa Energy Efficiency Network, which is one of the premier industrial efficiency programs that exists. We're here today to discuss the special programs designed by the U S DOE to help manufacturers save energy, increase competitiveness, and improve environmental performance. Specifically, we'll learn about the Better Buildings, Better Plants program, Industrial Assessment Center's Combined Heat and Power Technical Assistance Partnership, and Superior Energy Performance Program offerings. We'll start out with Bruce, who gives you an overview of these special programs, and then follow up with Walt, who will identify how these programs have helped Alcoa specifically reduce company-wide energy intensity. And following that, we will be opening up the conversation to your Q&A. And how we're going to do that today, if you could use your chat feature, which is on the right-hand side of your screen, just select my name. Again, this is Amy O'Mara from the drop-down menu, and you can chat your question to me, and I'll tee those up for our panelists when they're finished with the remarks. Please do feel free to send me those questions at any time so that we're ready to go as soon as they finish their presentation. We are going to be recording today's session to make it available in our Member Center afterwards so that you can share it with your colleagues, and it will also be available on YouTube. So with that, I would like to again welcome our guests and pass it over to Bruce.
Thank you, Amy. Thanks everyone for joining. It's a pleasure to be with you here today, and I want to thank you in advance for your attention to the presentation I'm going to give, as well as to Walter Brockway's presentation, which I think you'll find very insightful. I'll skip through the first page because I think Amy has presented me and introduced me pretty well, and just jump right into the meat of the presentation. So, basically, I want to start off by talking about the Better Buildings, Better Plants initiative. As you can see, there's some information about here on the screen. But what's really important to understand is that this is a White House initiative that is intended to help drive improvements in energy efficiency across the entire U.S. economy, buildings, government facilities, as well as manufacturing and industrial facilities. When organizations join, manufacturing organizations join our program, they join the Better Plants program, which is the kind of industrial segment of the whole Better Buildings initiative. The main mechanisms by which they do this are through the program level as well as the challenge level. And for the program level, what they do is they commit to saving the energy intensity in their manufacturing plants by 25% over a 10-year period. In exchange for that, they get access to national recognition, training resources, and other technical resources that I'll describe further later on. For the challenge level, the program goal is the same, but the challenge partners implement additional things and share energy data with the other participants, as well as information on how to overcome barriers to energy efficiency. Challenge partners are eligible for additional recognition, including a White House event that is wrapped into our annual summit that I'll talk about a little bit later. This gives you a little bit of an overview on the Better Plants program and who's in it and what goes on with it. We're actually up to close to 160 companies now and about 2,400 facilities. I'm sorry I didn't update that earlier. see, it's starting to represent a bigger segment of the U.S. manufacturing footprint. And you'll see there's a lot of representation in some very industrial states like Ohio, Texas, and California, but we're also growing in other parts of the Midwest, especially the Southeast. The Better Buildings Challenge, wanted to give you a quick flavor as to what goes on with that one. Basically, this was launched in December 2011, and the big focus was initially on the building partners. But we realized that we needed an equivalent segment for the industrial sector, and so we flared it out to the manufacturing division. And as of today, of the 250 Better Buildings Challenge partners, we have 27 partners that are industrial challenge partners. And they come from a variety of sectors within manufacturing, including chemicals and adhesives, food processing, electronics, glass and cement, water and wastewater treatment, as well as industrial equipment makers. And this gives you a quick idea of the companies that are the challenge partners just by their corporate logos. One of the things we've been able to see is that our partners have achieved some pretty strong energy savings over the past several years. As you can see, you've got about 320 trillion BTUs and $1.7 million. But one of the things we've seen is that some of our partners have been more ready and able to participate in utility incentives programs because some of the groundwork that they need to be successful in those programs is provided by the program, our program. As of 2015, we've decided to expand our program. We've initiated a supply chain pilot in which our partners that are existing in the program can engage some of their suppliers and share best practices. We also have a water efficiency pilot initiative, some new trainings, as well as expanding the program to water and wastewater agencies. These are some of the benefits that some of our partners receive in terms of priority access. Assessments from the industrial assessment centers, which I'll go into a little bit later, free combined heat and power or cogeneration screenings and additional technical support, and then further data analysis and validation resources that I'll talk about a little later as well. So let me get first to the supply chain pilot. Basically, we realized that in order to drive efficiency in the industrial sector, it's not enough to just work with a few individual companies. Especially since these companies are part of a big value chain that includes upstream suppliers and downstream customers. So what we have here are two, on the left-hand side, LeGrand and United Technologies are two existing partners, and they're working with cohorts of supply chain companies that are in their supply chains. What they're doing with, these are mostly upstream suppliers, and a lot of them are small to medium manufacturers. And what they're going to do is share best practices as well as other technical assistance with these supply chain cohorts. And in exchange, they're going to get additional recognition from the DOE for doing this. In addition, these supply chain cohort companies are going to be eligible for some of the technical assistance that they would receive if they were to be full-fledged partners. So that would include some technical assistance from our technical account managers as well as IAC assessments. And some of them are actually in the process of joining the program themselves so that they can be seen as leaders themselves in this important effort. The water pilot is something that was born out of a mutual priority by both industry and government. Last year, the Department of Energy made this an important strategic priority for the United States. And at the same time, we started getting feedback from our partners that they wanted to improve their water efficiency and do it in a formal manner. So what we did is we got together with them and said, you can actually repurpose our program to help you improve your water efficiency. And if you do this, we'll create a pilot initiative through which you can get recognition for it. And so what we've done is we've got, the companies you see right here, Cummins, Ford, General Motors, Harbeck, Nissan, Saint-Gobain, United Technologies, they've all agreed to, in this first year, they're going to set their own water intensity goals. But they're going to use the methodology of our program in terms of setting a baseline based on a certain year of their water consumption. And then they're going to measure the improvement against that baseline each year that they improve their water efficiency. And in case of United Technologies, they actually create an absolute water reduction target. So it's actually going to be the actual number of gallons not used versus gallons per unit of product, for example. This pilot initiative is starting to come to its almost 1-year anniversary, and we've been so happy with the success of it. All these companies have met the targets they set for themselves, that we're going to expand it in the coming months to other partners within the program. We're also in the process of tabulating all the lessons learned, and we may even construct additional guidance documents or in-person activities such as trainings to help the rest of our partnership base benefit from the knowledge that these companies have established. In-plant trainings, this is basically the workforce development component of the program. What we wanted to do is, a number of years ago, what we used to do a lot was assessments of manufacturing plants. And as part of those assessments, we provided some training while the energy expert who went on the assessments was there. He kind of helped train people a little bit on what he was doing, what to look for, that kind of thing. And what we decided to do was to combine these and make it a little more formal, so that when the energy expert goes through the plant, what they're actually doing is an abbreviated version of an energy assessment, but they're also giving some classroom instruction to the participants, as well as some field demonstrations of how to measure and monitor industrial systems, and also operator-level ways that they can improve energy efficiency in those systems. So what typically happens is one of our partners will decide to host one of these in-plant trainings. They'll select a topic or an industrial system, and then we will work with them to assign an energy expert, market the event, and then help make it happen with materials and other cost-shared initiatives. Since we started doing this about 4 years ago, we've trained over 750 people in manufacturing plants and identified over 2.5 trillion BTUs in energy savings and $14 million in cost savings. We're going to expand this, in the coming years. Typically, these in-plant trainings cover an industrial system like compressed air, pumping, steam, that sort of thing. But we realize that there is a bit of a need for greater topic areas as well as more in-depth knowledge about these kinds of systems. So we're going to expand it, for example, to energy management. We're also going to expand possibly to water and energy. And we're also looking at some additional topic areas that could provide value to the market in this type of training. Another area that we're really excited about is the water and wastewater treatment sector. We've known for a while that this sector is basically an industrial scale energy user. And last year we made the decision to go ahead and expand the program to the sector. That was done, I think, around November of 2014. And in that time, 10 water and wastewater agencies have joined the program. 3 of them at the challenge level. That would include Bucks County Water and Sewer Agency, the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, as well as the Victor Valley Water Reclamation Agency. Basically what we've done is we've treated these organizations just like we treat our manufacturers. They commit to the 25% level, and they get the same training and technical assistance and resources. As this is kind of a new sector for us, we're in the process of collecting information about them to understand exactly what metrics are relevant for them, what kinds of training resources would make sense for them. Obviously, pumping system in-plant training would make sense, but there may be some additional ones that we're overlooking. So we're in the process of, as we go through a pilot phase, collecting the right information that we need so that once we do expand it to the greater water and wastewater sector, we'll have the resources in place that are immediately impactful and help them in their attempts to improve their energy performance. We feel that this is a very important strategic initiative because a lot of these agencies, energy costs can be as high as 50% of the plant level energy consumption. and with municipalities, struggling to make sure that their rates don't get out of control, we think this will be an important way for them to help, get those rates under control. Access to the industrial assessment centers. So I mentioned this earlier, and to give you a little more idea, some of you may be familiar with this, but this is one of the longest standing energy efficiency programs in the United States that caters to manufacturers. It started in 1976, and what basically happens is about 24 universities will partner with DOE. We provide funding to them, and what they do is they perform assessments on energy using systems in manufacturers within their kind of service areas. Basically what they do is one professor, these universities all need to have accredited engineering programs, and a university professor from one of these colleges will take a group of students, anywhere from 5 to 10 students in engineering classes, and take them into a manufacturing plant when they conduct the assessment. The professor leads the assessment, and he depends on the students to help collect things like nameplate information on motors, steam firing rates, and that sort of thing. The final product, at the end of the 1 to 2 day assessment, is a assessment report that's pretty close to an investment grade report. But part of the objective is to help train the students into how to assess an industrial plant. So unfortunately, it's not going to be quite as detailed as what you would get if you were to purchase a real investment grade audit from a service provider. But like I said, it is pretty close, and what we've noted is that it combines low-hanging fruit type energy efficiency measures as well as some more capital-intensive measures. And the energy savings have been pretty close to what was estimated once the companies implement the energy efficiency measures. So this is something that has been going on for, like I said, since 1976, almost 40 years. But our Better Plants program partners will receive priority access if they're interested in these assessments. The one caveat is that the plants that receive the assessments need to have total energy expenditures of $2 million or less per year. That's because this program was initially oriented towards the small to medium manufacturing sector. So it has to respond to that requirement. And in combined heat and power deployment, this is another resource that we offer to our Better Plants partners. Basically, the Combined Heat and Power Deployment Office has these technical assistance partnerships, and you'll see by the color-coded areas which ones they serve around the country. These technical assistance partnerships, or TAPs, provide technical resources and assistance to organizations, whether they're buildings or manufacturing plants, that are interested in installing a cogeneration system, for example. What we do is we can provide priority access to our partners. They get a free combined heat and power screening, and then if the organization is interested in pursuing further, the technical assistance partnership will actually help cost share the feasibility analysis. And so in doing so, they will help reduce the cost of the feasibility analysis, which can be significant for a major cogeneration system. And our hope is that it will facilitate the implementation of that system. Another resource that we're kind of proud of recently is our improved resources for data analysis, basically. When companies join the program, one of the first things they need to do is to establish a baseline of their energy consumption. And originally, what would happen is companies would look at utility bills and basically add up their energy consumption and costs, and then come up with a baseline that way. In addition, they could go through the plant, look at the nameplate data, and then estimate the energy use that way. One of the things that we've done recently is to put together a guidance document that details different methodologies, but also talks about what's called the Energy Performance Indicator tool. And this is a regression tool that can be used to accurately model plants' energy use. And once those plant energy consumptions are done, they can be aggregated to a corporate level. So this baseline tracking and guidance document basically explains how to go about doing this It's also one of the benefits that partners get when they join the program is the technical account manager can help them establish the baseline and go through step-by-step how to identify significant energy uses, establish an energy efficiency implementation plan, and prioritize what you're going to do, and identify perhaps resources like utility incentives that can help facilitate the implementation. In addition, we have some webinars on our website that talk about these different methodologies and how to go about doing them. What we're working on right now is we realized after this came out that the document itself, the baseline guidance document, is kind of weighty. So we're putting together more of a quick reference guide that people can use to focus on specific areas of the baseline guidance tracking system. And this is just a little bit of a discussion on the Better Buildings Summit. This is our annual summit. We have almost 1,000 partners and stakeholders and 200 speakers. It's going on this year in Washington, D.C. between May 27th and 29th, and there is still time to sign up if you haven't already joined it. Here in Washington, D.C. at the Marriott Wardman Hotel. Most of the sessions are going to focus on sharing energy efficiency strategies. We're also going to do a lot of recognition and networking opportunities will be available. For our manufacturers, we're actually having a reception on the evening of the 28th, and this is also where the challenge partners will have the opportunity to attend the White House event. Before I finish, one thing I definitely wanted to also mention, before I get to Alcoa, one of our programs, and I'm sorry I missed the slide on this, is for our plant level program called Superior Energy Performance. If you recall, I mentioned that the Better Plants program is our corporate program. But we also have a program called SEP, or Superior Energy Performance, that addresses plants themselves. So if a manufacturer has, say, a dozen manufacturing plants, and one of them is the most energy intensive, it would make sense for them to participate in SEP. And SEP is a little different than Better Plants in that the performance levels are different. The minimum performance level, for example, was 5 years energy intensity improvement over a 3-year period. It also requires conformance with the ISO 50001 energy management standard. So that's kind of the big lift of that program because it takes a fair amount of staff time. Once companies go through and finish their ISO 50001 and get past the audit, during the whole period that they're doing this, they're looking for energy performance improvements, and many times they're doing operational improvements. And once they finish those energy efficiency improvements, there is a measurement and verification protocol that SEP applies, and a third party has to come in and use that protocol to validate the energy savings. In many cases, what they end up doing is using the energy performance indicator tool, which I discussed right here. This is actually something we borrowed from SEP. They use that tool to validate the energy savings that were achieved. And so the companies can either do Better Plants by themselves, they can do SEP by themselves, or they can do both. And we have had several of our partners that have decided to use SEP as a way to kind of get a big jump on the 25% goal. Because if you have a very energy intensive plant and you improve the performance by 5%, that can actually go, say, up to 10% of the corporate footprint. So those are all the slides that I have, and what I'll do now is turn it over to Walt Brockway, who will talk about Alcoa's experience in our program. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bruce. I'm actually going to jump in here for a second, Walt, if you don't mind. I noticed that quite a few attendees joined after my introduction, so I just want to remind everybody how to ask questions. This is Amy O'Mara from the Corporate EcoForum, and you can select my name from the drop-down menu under the chat and send your questions to me, and then I'll tee them up for a chat for Bruce and Walt at the end of the presentation. But thanks again, Bruce, and Walt, sorry to interrupt you just now, but I will now hand the ball over to you and look forward to your remarks.
Thanks, Amy. No problem. Good afternoon or good morning. Good morning to most, I guess, afternoon for those in the East. Thanks for taking the time to listen in. As mentioned, I'm Walt Brockway. I manage energy efficiency globally for Alcoa. I'm going to go through just some highlights of what being in the program has been like for us and I think we have some time at the end for some questions. So if I can do my best to advance through these slides. A little bit on Alcoa, just quickly, is that we've been around for a while. I think many have probably heard of Alcoa. We are in the aluminum business, but we are really transforming our business to also get into other lightweight metals and products. Real quick, we have upstream business, which is mining, refining, smelting, the heavy industry of aluminum making in our case. Midstream business, where we do rolling of aluminum for the most part for aerospace, for auto, for packaging, and that type of product. And we have a downstream business that is less aluminum, more other types of lightweight metals, heavy in the auto and heavier in the aerospace business, everything from aircraft components to fasteners to building and construction material, forging and extrusion. So just a little bit on Alcoa. We are aluminum, and we are also transforming to more lightweight materials. So the benefits of Alcoa, the Better Buildings Program, we've been a partner since the beginning of the program in about 2011, if I'm guessing that correctly, and we've certainly seen some advantages. When we signed on, we pledged to improve our energy efficiency or energy intensity by 25% by year 2020 across 29 plants. That's changed. We've had a couple plants drop out because they shut down, and we'll probably have some more being added as we've done some acquisitions. And only in the U.S. plants. We did not include our larger smelters. They are already, it would be in fact, it would be impossible for them to achieve 25%. We took them out. To date, we've achieved about 13% reduction from our beginning in 2011. We did do so our take from what we have gained from DOE is some technical expertise and some implants, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. What I think we're giving back to be shared, not that we're giving to DOE, that can be shared, is our showcase project and implementation projects that I'll talk about in a minute as well. So it certainly has been a partnership where we are gaining, I believe we are gaining, and I think that DOE is also gaining. I hope that's true. So on the technical side, they provided support to us with plant energy assessments early on. That's now been more of the in-plant assessments. I can talk about those. Some energy management training, there's been webinars, there's been face-to-face. Tools and analysis for reporting has been very helpful. Bruce talked about ENPI. We use that. We're not SCP, but we use that as part of the Better Plants program. The tool has grown over time, and it's become a pretty useful tool for us. And of course, the DOE labs exist here in East Tennessee and throughout the country, and they are a resource available to us, not just in energy, but as a company in general. Recent results, I'll say, because we've been partnering with DOE in different programs over the years, is we've conducted 6 in-plant energy assessments, if I have that number right. They have been successful for us. I can talk about those if there's questions. And we've identified some pretty significant savings from those assessments. I will say that in our world, that identifying savings and capitalizing on those savings are not always matched completely. We may identify savings and choose not to pursue those. And other savings identified we do pursue. So our showcase project quickly was we have a recycling facility in Ohio where traditionally we generate scrap as part of the machining process. The scrap is trucked to a facility and it's probably about 800 miles away, or to a third party that is remelted, it is recast, sent back to us, and we make the product again. In this case, it's aluminum wheels for trucks. Our project was to reconstruct a new high-tech facility next to the facility that generates the waste, so we avoid the transportation. So a good piece, I'm going to guess, is about half of the savings achieved was the reduction in transportation. The other was improvement in the process. So we were able to reduce transportation and improve the process and save the energy required to recycle this material by 30%. And that number is real. We've vetted that over and over again, so a very successful project for us. We were going to do the project, but it fit very well with the showcase project for DOE as well. For our implementation model, this is an eye chart. You can't read it, so I can probably tell you anything. We chose 2 things. One is that we linked our executive and actually our management incentive compensation to energy. Not completely. One component of it is energy. There are other components as well. But as you can imagine, that does highlight energy. And in my case, in my role, that's important that managers are thinking about how can we improve our energy footprint. The other one is that for large projects over a given dollar amount, I have the ability to review the projects and make suggestions. I don't approve projects, but I review nearly all capital projects for Alcoa and have the opportunity to provide input from the energy perspective. And that's worked pretty well for us as well. Implant, we've done, like I said, we've done 6 implant. This is one I think that was done at our Iowa facility, Davenport, Iowa facility, where we did some process heating. Just a quick shot of the folks out in the field. An important piece, for me at least, is the field work. The classroom training is also beneficial and necessary, but to get out in the field with experts and people from the plant, not only the host plant, but other Alcoa plants or neighboring industries, and see, touch, feel, measure, understand how things work is really a big benefit. And we push that as hard as we can. The more field time is fine with me. So these are some from our sustainability report. These are probably a year old and they're blurry, and I'm sorry for that. But these are our 3 businesses. We can see the takeaway is you can see a trend downward in energy intensity in all of the businesses. And certainly the Better Plants program has played a role in helping us achieve these results. That's all for me. I'll see if I can pass this ball back to Devin.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Walt. It's very interesting. I'm sure a lot of our members were interested to hear the perspective of a fellow member company who's participated in this program, and we appreciate you sharing that experience. I wanted to, before we open it up to questions, just remind everybody that if you'd like to ask a question, please use the chat or the Q&A feature on the WebEx interface. Just select my name, Amy, from the drop-down menu, and I will tee up the questions to our panelists. And Walt, I wanted to start with a couple of questions to you. You just mentioned that one of the aspects of the program that was very helpful to you was the field experience. Can you speak to other aspects of the program that have been helpful, especially helpful to Alcoa, and also some of the things that you sort of wish existed within the program that might enhance it and make it better?
Sure, thanks. Lots of questions bundled there. The implants have certainly been beneficial to us because we get technical experts on site, hands-on, working with people in the plant that are going to actually make the difference. They're the ones who can make the changes. And let me just elaborate a little bit on that. We got a lot of plants all across the globe, and no doubt people in the plant know what needs to be done. What we can bring, what DOE can bring, is validation that it's a good thing to do or it's not. Evaluation, what's this worth to us, and a little bit of education on the project. So kudos for that. I think the other advantages are networking. So we have the ability to, Bruce put up a slide a few minutes ago that showed logos from many different companies. We have the ability to network with those companies both through this forum and offline, whether they be like industry or unlike industry. The neat thing about energy is it's really not proprietary. We all want to reduce our energy consumption, so for us to talk to another company about how do you go about doing this is pretty wide open, and DOE and this program has really enhanced that ability. Bruce talked about the summit that's coming up. For me, there's a lot of good things at the summit, but a big one is this ability to network with other partners, and I'll add, and this is my perspective, not only industrial partners, although that's the piece that counts most for us, but I've found that by talking to folks that are involved with buildings, commercial buildings and institutional, we learn things from them as well. They're doing energy reductions, energy projects, and it's worthwhile to pay attention. So that's a big one for us. If I talked about what else would I like to see in the program, it's a good program. Maybe a different form of recognition. Recognition is done, I think, but the more recognition that we're able to share within within the company is helpful for the program. It keeps the program going. So thinking about different types of recognition. I think the ability to connect suppliers and customers, DOE has that ability. In our case, there's certainly both suppliers and customers that are members. DOE may be in a unique position to connect those together more so than we are with the relationship we have. So might be something to explore. I already mentioned continuing the in-plant program, including that program some more flexibility. It is a pretty flexible program. In our case, I'd say more time in the field, less time in the classroom. Others may say different than that. Bruce mentioned expanding topic areas. I think that's a great idea. We all seem to focus on the big ones, air, pumps, steam systems, heat transfer, and expanding that would be good. So that's my longer than brief answer, Amy.
That's okay. You don't need to be brief. We're here to listen to you. Bruce, I wonder if I could ask you to respond a little bit to some of those ideas that Walt just suggested. Do those sound like things that would be feasible enhancements to the program, or things that you've thought about already?
Yeah. Yeah, and listening to this, what Walt just said, I kind of recognize some things that we've been, talking about internally. The recognition, is something that we've been wrestling with about how to do it a little bit better. One of the things that we've realized is that, a lot of times when we work with manufacturers, we're actually working with people who are, say, the energy manager or the maintenance manager or the facilities manager, those kinds of positions. But there's a whole larger group of people beyond that in other parts of the plant and other parts of the company who may not be touched as much by our program as the context that we have, and that includes recognition, not just knowing about the program. So we're actually kind of meditating internally as to how we can do some kind of a peer-based, maybe within the company or within the plant type of recognition system. As far as connecting suppliers with customers, we do need to be a little bit careful that we do this in a way that doesn't violate, say, antitrust principles. I know in the past we had considered some type of program that would allow vendor-type organizations to participate in it, but there were some issues that our Office of General Counsel wasn't comfortable with. So that's still partially our intent, and that's part of the networking that we facilitate. Those are kind of non-competitive situations where manufacturers like Walt or others can come and actually meet with vendors and other suppliers, and go from there. As far as expanding the implant topic areas, this is something we definitely intend to do. In fact, we're rolling out a new topic in the second half of 2015. It's going to be on energy management itself. So that's definitely something we've got in the works. One thing I should point out, if you go back to some of Walt's slides, particularly the ones that talked about the recycling project and the next one on the implementation model, these are the kinds of things that our challenge partners do in terms of sharing information. So those are not requirements for the program partners, but the challenge partners have engaged themselves to provide that kind of information and to highlight those kinds of projects.
Great. Thank you. So I have another question for you, Bruce, coming from our audience, and it's about the improved resources for data analysis program that you mentioned. The question is how this program differs from standard baseline analysis method.
Well, I'm not sure what the questioner is asking about in terms of a standard method. But basically, what we're moving towards is encouraging more of our partners to use the ENPI tool. This is something that we kind of recently made available to them because it was something that had been piloted through Superior Energy Performance, so it was considered workable at a plant level, but we had to investigate it to make sure that it could be expanded to a company that has 80 or more plants, for example. So that regression tool has been found to be robust enough for our purposes, and so that's kind of what we're migrating people towards. I hope that answers the question.
I hope that answers the question too, but to the questioner, if you need further clarity, please send me a chat and we'll get some further clarification for you. Question about cost. Can you talk about any fees or costs that might be involved for companies that are interested in participating?
Is that directed towards me? Or? Okay, I'll take it on. There is no fee to participate in the Better Plants program, either at the program or challenge level. The main requirements in terms of costs are going to be the staff time to both establish the the baseline and work with the technical account manager, and then the reporting at the end of the year, and then of course the actual implementation of whatever energy efficiency activities are going to help reach the 25% goal. But other than that, there's no fee to participate, and we actually, if someone decides to host an in-plant training, for example, there is a question as to whether they want to cost share. It's not mandatory, but it just helps facilitate the actual assigning of that in-plant training. But other than that, there are no fees to participate.
Okay, great. I'm sure that's good news to everybody. Looks like I have, let's see, a couple. It looks like the answer to your last question was fine, so we don't need further clarification on that one. I have just a couple more questions coming in, so just to remind everybody that if you have a question, please send me a note about it. Otherwise, I will just end with these last couple of questions that have come in, which are also for Bruce. So the first one is whether companies headquartered outside of the United States can join the program?
So the answer is yes. However, the manufacturing plants and manufacturing energy use assets that are outside of the United States are not eligible to participate. So, for example, if you have a company that's headquartered overseas but they have some U.S. operations, the footprint that is eligible are those U.S. manufacturing operations.
Got it. And the last question is, given the standard reduction in commitment that you've outlined, the 10-year, 25% reduction that companies should commit to, is the program flexible in terms of that baseline year selection?
Absolutely. In fact, I probably should have mentioned it earlier, but what we do is, when a company comes to us, and if they have some recent energy efficiency gains, especially if it's something that was a big investment, like retrofitting a boiler or something like that, we can go back 3 years from the year that they actually start to establish their baseline. So if a manufacturer were to join in 2015, but they had a good compressed air system project in 2012 or 2013, we can actually set the baseline back to 2012, and that way their 10 years would start in 2012 instead of 2015, and they wouldn't have to initiate any new activities. Let's say if those projects yielded a 5% improvement, then they wouldn't have to do anything new beyond that 5%. They would only have 20% left over the remaining time on based on when they started.
Great. Okay. Well, it looks like we don't have any other questions coming down the pike at this time, so I'm going to let everybody go a little bit early and get ready for your next big thing today. But I want to, again, thank you, Bruce and Walt, for spending time with us today and sharing your very vast expertise with this program and on this topic in general. We appreciate that very much. And as I said, we will be making a recording of this session available on the CEF Member Center. And it will also, in this case, be available through the DOE program's YouTube channel. So we'll be able to send that link out to people as well. So thanks again, and hope everybody has a great afternoon.
Thank you.
Thanks, Amy.
Thank you. Bye-bye.